All right, guys, we are back again with another COVID cabal, and this is going to be a very short episode. Sorry, a little bit delayed. There were technical issues. I could not get this camera working for whatever reason. So, and I'm not even really sure exactly what happened. But we're rolling now. If you guys are here, drop a comment in the chat. If you are here, drop a comment in the chat. You know what time it is. It's the COVID cabal time, and we got to have the chat popping. We got to have people saying what's up. We got to have things going on. Going to be a massive COVID cabal. I mean, look, let's just fucking do it. Let's just get the hype up. Massive COVID cabal going on. The Wi-Fi got Epstein. COVID cabal. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Before we get into the meat of this, we do have a wine tonight. This is Verdicchio di Castello de Jesi. This is from Marche. Marche is a region on the Adriatic coast of Italy, northeastern. And Verdicchio means little green one. So there's a famous story about Verdicchio that when Alaric of the Visigoths was going to go sack Rome, that he said that his men were sustained by drinking the Verdicchio from the Marche region. It is a very acidic grape, typically with some almond and herbaceous notes. So it's a nice wine. DOCG status in 2010. Haven't had Verdicchio in a while. It's not, it's a prestigious white wine of Italy, but it's like it's very niche. You know what I mean? It's not like a big one. So smelling it. Lot of lemon going on here. Lemon, like slight flowers. Let's go. That is very good. Wow, very good. And the palate is very much the nose. You get this like very honeysuckle kind of taste on it, but it's not overwhelming, which is nice because I don't like it to be too overwhelming. It's mostly just lemons and honeysuckle. I think that's a good way to describe it. All right. So I had a comment in the chat here. Pat, would you say Trump is the Mozart of tension control? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. He's a genius at tension control. He's a genius at tension control. And I just really need people. Yeah, take a deep breath here. I do not understand how people don't get him at this point. And I want to distinguish before I go into this monologue between those who I genuinely believe are operating in good faith, but either don't understand or are, I would say a lot that there are a number of people, and I'm not going to be specific here. I don't want to, because people can have differences of opinion. I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to be upset about Epstein's files not getting released. I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to say that Trump botched the execution of putting the Epstein files out there. I mean, look, I don't think you can make strong arguments that at least the way this has been done very well, because obviously it is feeding the fire of bad actors out there. And I want to talk to you about one bad actor in particular, because this is so fucked up. Fuentes just put this thing out here today. Let us never forget that 1 year ago today, our president, Donald Trump, was spared from sudden death by God. Trump took a bullet so that he could live to cover up Epstein's pedophile island and to bomb Iran for Israel. And Josiah has a great comment here. Fuentes is a grade A piece of shit and no better than a leftist. He actually is worse because he's a traitor. If it were up to him, Kamala would have won, and Trump's very real gains on immigration enforcement would be dead. Fuentes says, so now Trump is claiming the Epstein files are a Democrat hoax. LOL. MAGA is dead. Good riddance. Okay. The thing that's really important to understand about Fuentes, I don't really care about the fact that he's mean to Jews. I really do not give a shit about it at all. To some extent, some of the revelations that, you know, the attention on certain matters, I don't care about that. And that is not why I have any issue with Fuentes. The reason I have an issue with Fuentes is because he's a grimy Joker-like figure. He's somebody who does not want to build anything. He wants to watch the world burn. And I think he wants to watch the world burn because he's a super trad Catholic, but he's a homosexual. This is not a man. This is a man who is completely filled with hate. He is completely filled with hate, okay? I am not a hater. I'm not a hater. I believe in creation. I believe in doing what needs to be done. But I believe in working to make the world a better place, okay? Candace Owens, there's some things that I've disagreed with Candace on. I think Candace, you know, has made statements very similar to Fuentes recently. But I want to distinguish here to some extent the character of the individuals, because the character and intention of the individuals matters. Candace, for instance, was pointing out, why aren't you having kids, Nick? Oh, fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck women. Women suck. Women suck. I'm not gonna have sex with women. I'm telling you, this guy is a homosexual. And it's not really surprising that he's been hanging out so much with Yi, who we know has been doing similar things. And look, I'm not saying this stuff to be like a slanderer, okay? I could have said this a long time ago, and I have not said it. The reason I'm saying it now, the reason I'm talking about this now, is because you have to look at where are people oriented in life. When Tucker Carlson says something, and he has an opinion that's different or whatever, he puts his neck out there. You should listen to it, because Tucker has had some very real skin in the game when it comes to life, right? And Tucker genuinely cares and wants things to get better. Nick doesn't want things to get better. Guys, there's loyal opposition and then there's disloyal opposition. There are people who exist to harm you. And I talked about this last COVID cabal, but I want to build on this a little bit. I want to call it out very directly. Nick Fuentes, I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. Nick Fuentes is absolutely oriented, and I don't know if it's because he's under some sort of payroll for it. I don't like to jump to that kind of stuff, to be honest, because Nick has natural talent as a polemic speaker. And I remember when Nick started back in 2016 with his little like green screened, you know, show. It was better production than this, right? And I'm saying this because Nick is a talented individual. You have to acknowledge that he is a talented polemic speaker. But I said on a prior show, when Fuentes talks, your vibration goes down. You become a victim of the Jews. The Jews do everything. The Jews control everything. But it's not even just that the Jews control everything. It's that you can't do anything about it. And by the way, the man who has done the most to actually fight to stop it, you definitely shouldn't support him. And you should consider him a traitor, and he's a terrible person. And this stuff, you know them. Like, look, Jesus said it very well. You shall know them by their fruits. Nick Fuentes' fruit is fucking rotten. It's rotten fruit. It's absolutely rotten fruit. You could disagree with Trump on things related to Epstein. You could disagree with Trump on things related to Iran. Fuentes didn't want him to win the presidency. Fuentes told the Groypers to opt out of the election, just like he's telling the Groypers to opt out of life. don't procreate, don't have kids. I'm going to have a lot of kids. I'm going to have a lot of kids. And the reason I'm going to have a lot of kids is because they're killing us. Understand that? I have a lot of kids because they're killing us. It's fucking defiance. You understand? I mean, I love kids. Don't get me wrong. There's levels to it, though, is my point. Is that a lot of people say, oh, well, women are messed up. This is, you can't do this. You can't do. Yes, you fucking can do this. Yes, you can do this stuff. And this is why, even though I've had differences of opinion with Andrew Tate, and, there's some messages that I'm not completely aligned with him. Doesn't matter. I'm never trashing Andrew Tate, because even if Andrew Tate can be like crass or whatever, it doesn't matter. Andrew's telling people to live. And you contrast that with Fuentes. Fuentes wants you to die. Fuentes worships death. He's a death worshiper. He wants everything to get worse. He would love nothing better than for people to start getting killed because of all this stuff. He would love the chaos. He would love the situation to get worse, because the worse things get, the more he benefits from it. Okay? So I'm saying this because you have to be very, very cautious about people like that and what they're telling you and why they're telling you it. Because if someone's telling you, even if there's a lot of true things they're telling you, if they're telling you it for a wrong reason and they are manipulating your way of thinking, they can actually make you worse off. We do not get through this without Trump. We would be fucking nowhere without Trump. We would not have a fucking chance without Trump. Does anybody who is upset with Trump and the Epstein stuff, do they seriously understand and appreciate that? Or are they just children? Are they just emotional children? We have had an amazing 6 months of his first 6 months of his pregnancy. Presidency. Holy shit. Presidency. I guess I'm thinking about pregnancy because my wife is like 7.5 months right now, and she's popping. We have never had a first 6 months like these first 6 months of Trump's presidency. So when Trump comes out and tells you this, what's going on with my boys, and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it, all over a guy who never dies. We're going to return to that. Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it was Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything to release in the Epstein file, if there's anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr. files. No matter how much success we have had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years, and we have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals, instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same in 2024, and that's why she is looking into it as AG and so much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, wow, there is so much to unpack there. So much to unpack there. So the first is obviously this very specific choice of words all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein, right? Trump did not have to say it like that, right? He didn't have to say it like that. That's a deliberate provocation, just like when he says something like this, stop talking about Epstein, this is also a deliberate provocation. So look, there's a couple things here that we want to go into. The first is the most superficial, which is trust Trump. Trump is telling you, look at what we're accomplishing. Look at how we're winning. So just because it doesn't make sense to you, just because you do not understand exactly what's going on right now, don't think that things are not going according to plan. And very specifically, do not think that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are people who I don't trust, because if they are doing, if they look like they're being disloyal, they are not being disloyal. They are actually operating according to plan, and we are moving forward with things. So even if it doesn't make sense to you, stop doubting it. Another thing in here that's worth noting, which is very true, and I'm going to give you two angles on this. The first is that why is it that the left, if there was stuff damaging to Trump or MAGA, why didn't they release anything on Epstein before? They had the files during Biden's presidency. They didn't do it. And honestly, most of the left really hasn't been clamoring to get these documents released. Now, you've started to see some people come forward now. Ro Khanna, for instance, is putting something forward with that. And to be fair, I actually forget what it was. He had some, I think, bipartisan bill, I think, on campaign finance or something with Marjorie Taylor Greene a few years ago. I don't mind Ro Khanna. Okay, I don't want to say I don't mind Ro Khanna. I don't like Ro Khanna because he's a shitlib. But I don't think Ro Khanna is like an evil, despicable person. A lot of the vast majority of these Democrats are just totally corrupt. I don't really think Ro Khanna's corrupt. I don't get the sense that he's a particularly decrepit politician. And it's probably, you know, the fact that he would even put that forward is somewhat significant, because I really haven't seen it come from any Democratic politicians besides for him. So that tells me that he's maybe more likely to be clean. And I think it stands to reason that not every single Democrat is going to actually be corrupt. I think that that's, you know, it's a uni-party, guys, right? There might be a few people who still vote for stupid stuff because they're stupid. They have stupid views, but they aren't actually rotten. But I want to digress on this. That's not really that important. What's important about it is that it's absolutely accurate that the same people who tried to fucking kill Trump and put him in prison for 100 years or so would have loved to be able to doctor some Epstein evidence and dump it on him if they could. So it's pretty clear that, so where is this big push? What is this? Most of the manipulation that like Trump is involved with Epstein isn't really coming from Democratic politicians. It's coming from people like Fuentes, coming from, you know, I said in the last show that believe that Trump didn't release the files because he was able to use that as leverage against people. But there's a lot of different layers to this that could happen, that could be going on. It could be that stuff on Epstein is going to come out, but Trump wants to put distance between himself in that information, and he wants, to some extent, the public to get really agitated about it so that there's, you know, a pretext to do it. I mean, what he's doing right now, like he knows how to market. So he knows when you say don't, he's a hypnotist. I mean, Scott Adams himself has said he's a hypnotist, right? So when you say stop talking about Epstein, That is like a classic hypnotic way to make everybody think about Epstein. He knows that this stuff doesn't work. The way to get someone to stop talking about something is to divert their attention elsewhere. So why is Trump directly talking about the stuff with Epstein? Maybe Epstein's alive. Maybe Epstein's going to testify at some point. I'm not pretending to know the exact answer to this kind of stuff. Because you can't know the answer to this kind of stuff. All you can know in this fog of war is that Trump is fighting these people tooth and nail, and he does it as he has always done it, in a very deceptive, difficult to understand manner to the outside, because he operates in the fog of war. He operates like a mafia guy. He grew up in a city that was run by the mafia. Like, when he was a kid, he grew up in a mafia city. And mafiosos are not above using deception to achieve their goals. This is how Trump always tries to appear weak. He always tries to appear like the little clown and he gains leverage. So you have to look at it like this. You cannot, if your frame of thinking is what Trump did doesn't make any sense, Trump is stupid, and then you see that Trump is literally the most impressive man in the face of the planet, considering what he's been up against and how far he's come. And also putting aside the fact that it very much looks like Trump has some sort of divine intervention on his side because of certain things that his own genius couldn't have spared him from, but that were spared to him by God. You better think maybe twice about your own ability to understand things. If you trust Trump, and if you trust the plan, which is that Trump has a plan, especially at this point in time, I'm most sympathetic to people who saw the first term and saw the disloyalty and how Trump was not able to bring a team of people around him to appropriately help. I am much more sympathetic to people who have criticisms then because they saw a lot of the failures the first time. But we've seen none of this stuff really happen this time around. I'm not saying, look, I like the pressure on Trump's people. I like the pressure on Trump's team because I like an engaged populace. We are not going to have a functioning republic if people are not pushing back. And by the way, Elon is giving us the platform to do this stuff. Now, maybe he's promoting people like Fuentes through the algorithm. I don't know. But the bottom line is that having a healthy democracy requires civic engagement, people being pissed off at the president, but it also requires the president to not follow simply the caprices of the crowd. I got a couple things here I want to show you. Scott Adams says this very well. If you see the Epstein story as a crime story, which of course it is, you probably favor maximum disclosure of everyone and everything involved, including innocent people, like a typical court case. If you see the Epstein story as something bigger involving more than one nation, you might see it as a commander-in-chief issue, meaning the public is not meant to have the full story, similar to most national defense issues. We elect the president to decide, in part, what the public can safely see. Would you favor full disclosure if you knew it would derail a peace negotiation? Would you favor full disclosure if you knew it would end Republican control of Congress and plunge the country back into Democratic open border hellscape? If you can't say what you would give up to get the full Epstein disclosure you crave, you're not a serious person. And this is what, more or less, what I said on the last show or a couple shows ago, which is that Trump has to weigh a bunch of different concerns here. Is it better to use the Epstein thing to win on other issues? Scott Adams had another poll. He said, would you have your child die so that people could learn about Epstein? And, the vast majority of people said, like 90-something% said no, obviously not. If you would have your kid die over that, you're pretty fucked up. To be honest, you're pretty fucked up because you don't even know what the revelation is going to change. You don't even know what it's going to change. So, like, you don't even know what it is and you don't know what it's going to change. So how can you, like, wager your child's life over that kind of stuff? This is very, very serious, high stakes stuff. I feel certain some of this is being used as leverage, but it also may be that Trump himself is constrained at releasing this stuff, at least in a certain manner, in a certain way. Maybe it's much more important. Maybe there is going to be an investigation, and it's much more important that Trump has neutrality right now. Right now, Trump's showing himself to be very neutral on the issue, right? So he becomes more insulated politically from anything that may emerge with it. There is another thing I want to show here to show you somebody who's not that. Oh, I posted the same one twice. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second here. Because I think a lot of people trust Tulsi because Tulsi doesn't talk a lot. Tulsi just seems to work, and she came from the left, or like, she suffered a lot. She was on a terror watch list too. She said there was a war with the deep state going on. Sees the base asking on X, why aren't things going faster? I can attest personally that in my work as DNI, the deep state is fighting us every step of the way. Do you think the campaign was hard? Do you think what President Trump went through was hard? And it was. The road ahead will not be easy. And it exists within every single federal agency. And so I feel the same frustration that I see many of you expressing on X or in different platforms about why aren't things going faster? Why aren't we getting results more quickly? I feel this frustration every single day. We are pushing hard. Know that they are pushing hard back. Okay? So we have to have a little bit more faith in where we've come. I don't know if Bondi's amazing or whatever. To be honest, the DOJ has done a lot of very good things in the last 6 months. Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon's done a very good job. We will have to see a lot of the results. People's charges have been dropped. Like just the other day, people were complaining, oh, why is Pam Bondi's DOJ still investigating this doctor who gave out vaccine certificates? And then she dropped it. This stuff is improving, stuff is changing, but you guys are going to have to, I'm not saying you guys, because a lot of you guys are, not like this, but people are going to have to trust Trump a little bit more. You have to trust your commander in chief. This is why I keep saying you have to understand his intentions. If you understand your leader's intentions, then you can operate in a way that tries to help things move forward for him. If you don't trust his intentions, if you think he's been bought out, you think that those were things that you could maybe think the first term. I never thought them. They were things you could maybe think the first term. After what they did to him during Biden's term and, trying to kill him and throw him in prison, I think you have to really be totally just delusional to think that he's cucking on anything. If he's doing it his own way, he's doing it because that's the strategy, and he's very good at it. I would not be good at it. Almost no one would be remotely close to as good of it as Trump. He is incredible at smoke screens. I think that the main thing that Trump messed up is this, and I'm going to close with this because I have to run to dinner. The main thing that Trump has messed up with this whole Epstein thing is that he does not, and part of it is because he's probably constrained a little bit based on the circumstances. I think he underestimated just how much people want these fuckers dead. How much people view Epstein as a proxy issue for government corruption, and they want stuff taken care of. I think Trump was hoping to some extent that people would just trust what he's doing because he's getting them all these wins. And I think he is probably a little surprised at the degree to which people are like, I don't give a fuck about your wins for us. I really want the people that Epstein serviced to have a noose around their neck. I don't think he understood the degree of rage and which is making, I think, otherwise good people, notwithstanding the bad actors who are manipulating them, is making otherwise good people say, like, I don't really care about your big, beautiful bill if you're letting Lindsey Graham, who ate, to like rape some kid, walk free and you're in pictures with him. Trump is probably thinking a lot more logically than the base. And his post is telling us very clearly, please shut the fuck up and trust me. So that is my message for all of you today is trust Trump, trust the GOAT. And do I think he will expose him eventually? I do believe we are going to have mass arrests, and I do believe that there is going to be a massive exposure of crimes. But guys, I really cannot tell you if we ever find out everything. I can't. My heart tells me we will find out the most of it. But I do think that there's certain elements that, because they're just not going to allow us to get across the finish line if we don't let them go, or they will create too much chaos globally. You know, keep in mind the systems have to run. If the systems fall apart, we like to tell ourselves that the system's bad, so we want to get rid of it. But the reality is you want to do a controlled demolition of the system. If the system disintegrates, if social trust disintegrates too quickly, and there's no ability to transition social order, you have revolutions, and revolutions become very hard to control, and they often lead to very bad actors gaining power, which is, I think, the kind of stuff like Nick Fuentes. You know, I read enough Dostoevsky to see someone like Nick Fuentes very clearly. You know, he's straight out of the book Demons. You know, he's someone who would happily kill if it got him more power. He would love to see society burned if it benefit him. So I think that that's where we're at right now, gentlemen. So I got to run the dinner. I will see you guys on the next COVID Cabal. I think it could be a rough couple of weeks for Trump, because people certainly are, you know, he's going to have to balance all this stuff, but he'll balance it as he always does. And we'll get through it, and we'll keep winning in the long term. All right, gents, I'll see you next time.